Hello, I'm Rick Hertless, founder of His Gospel Power. Thank you for joining with our program as we look into the book of Titus. Chapter 3, we will finish the book of Titus this week, and we will begin a new book next week. And I really don't even know what book it will be. Ron and I will discuss it and decide how we're going to proceed and what will be the next book. But for now, let's finish off with Titus. Before we do that, please go to hisgospelpower.org, click on the donate button or the contact us button. And thank you to all of those who do support our ministry through your prayers and through your financial gifts. Well, many times we have talked about the final message that are placed in these letters, and the fact that if you have a final message in a letter that you're writing, it is the most important part of what you are trying to get everyone to remember. And what Paul is writing, he reiterates, he writes again, and let our people, Titus 3:14, and let our people also learn to maintain good works, to meet urgent needs, that they may not be unfruitful. So this has got to be a very important part of the letter that he is writing to Titus. It's like, look, there are needs, and they need to be met for people to be able to live the life. There's enough strife and there's enough heartaches in this life without having to go through certain needs that are unnecessary, that might be able to be met by others or help them through those times. And so that this message that he is giving is evidently a very important message. Remember, yesterday we talked about 3:8. It says, "This is a faithful saying, and these things I want you to affirm constantly." I didn't emphasize that word yesterday, but I am today. Affirm constantly that those who have believed in God should be careful to maintain good works. These things are good and profitable men. Well, now you jump down to 3:14, which is right at the end of Titus. He says, "And let our people also learn to maintain good works, to meet urgent needs, that they may not be unfruitful." So in other words, one of the needs is to give the gospel, okay? But one of the first things you have to do before you can really give the gospel effectively is somehow you have to be able to meet the need of the individual you're talking about. And Ron, I thought, explained that very well yesterday in the fact that, look, there are, you may know of the struggle that is going on in someone's life. Maybe it's a loved one is not, it does not know Jesus, or maybe it's something that you can do just by talking out, maybe giving them some sort of comfort. Maybe it's just praying for them because they're sick. All of these things. And it also could just be a financial or physical need to where maybe they need to eat something that day and they haven't eaten, or maybe they need some new clothes and you can help with that. The need is not always going to be material, but you should still try to meet that need before giving them the gospel so that they are more apt to be able to listen to the gospel. Now, of course, if they're a believer, you're not going to be giving them the gospel, but what you will be doing is giving them encouragement. You will be maintaining good works by giving encouragement to those who need encouragement in Jesus so that they might maintain good works. Ron Stoyle.
There are two specific things in this passage today that I think have been distorted so bad in doctrines today, in churches, in ministries, in nonprofit organizations, that if they were done correctly would be so much more effective. And it's the two parts in here that says, "See that they lack nothing, so as to help cases of urgent need." And what is happening, I see today, is bad habits are being fed, and those in true need are not being given the right information. And a lot of it is people's situations are not being addressed on why is this situation, and the first one is, see that they lack nothing. That is where the church is failing, because they're not teaching people about why their situations are the way they are. So what they're doing is they're encouraging bad habits, which is pushing the people farther into the hole that they've created. So if you could say it's counseling, or it's just being the proper doctrine being taught in churches. So let's take an example. Someone that has a financial problem, is it being addressed as, oh, let's just give them money so they can pay their bills, instead of teaching them how to have good financial sense? Now, most of the churches I see that have financial classes, oh, let's just give them the Dave Ramsey class. Well, I've gone through the Dave Ramsey class, and some parts are good for some people, some parts are good for other people, and then some parts are just completely unfeasible for anybody. So just to say, well, let's take the Dave Ramsey class and send you on your way, that's not the right answer for some people. If you were in Dave Ramsey's situation, his course will be perfect for you. But I haven't met a single person that has gone through the Dave Ramsey class that was Dave Ramsey. So to say, well, this is a catch-all for everybody, something like that is not good. Every single person or family should sit down and determine, if you're in financial need, why are you in that financial need? Now, it may be something as a single mother that their husband left them, and now they're strapped because now they have to provide for their kids. Father isn't paying his child support. Got it. But if it's somebody that is just horrible with finances and they're deeply in debt because they can't make a financial decision to save their life, Dave Ramsey ain't going to help them, because he's not going to teach them how to get out of it, because they're so, their mindset isn't right.
And that's exactly right. You have to take each need on its own merit. There's no cookie cutter situation.
Right.
And in fact, you brought up the Dave Ramsey thing, and personally, I'm the same way with Dave Ramsey. His is all about saving.
Right.
It's only about saving. Well, that's great if you have the stuff to save, but it also does not teach entrepreneurs. Now, I listen to Robert Kiyosaki occasionally. I'm not what you'd call a, I don't know, I'm not a fanatic about Robert Kiyosaki, and I don't believe he's a believer. He will use some language sometimes on YouTube. I've watched him, but he has good information for the entrepreneur. And one thing is that, look, savings is a good thing, and you can do that, but you're not going to, more than likely, according to Dave Ramsey, you will get wealth from that. I don't see it the same way. I see that you will maintain a lifestyle with that, but I don't think you will. I don't know. That could happen. But there's many ways to approach a situation. It's not always one cookie cutter situation. In fact, it never is one cookie cutter way. And so you're exactly right. You have to, with no matter what it is, whether it be a healing need, whether it be food or whatever, you have to decide, is this a temporary situation or is this a long term? How can we help someone approach this from their standpoint?
Right.
Because, like you said, it could just be a temporary thing that's happened, has never really happened before. We just need to help them out of this hump so they can get back on their way. All of these things, it's the same exact thing, but it all leads us right back down to what? Maintaining good works. It leads us right back down to, in other words, caring. That's real. The bottom line here is you've got to care one for another.
Well, and I think the other aspect of this that I want to get into was see that they lack nothing. Well, think of that from a Christian point of view, and you can even think of it from a business point of view. Say there are believers in your church, whether a home church or an institutional church, that have needs. They're concentrating on those needs and not presenting the gospel. So if you can provide for the needs of those within the church body first, they don't have to worry about thinking about that. They have the opportunity to spread the gospel. So we'll take it in the broadest sense. If everybody in the church body sold everything that they had, they all became, poor because they gave everything away, all they're concentrating on is surviving and not presenting the gospel. That is what they were talking about here. If everybody in the church body is provided for, then they don't have to concentrate on surviving. They have the opportunity to concentrate on giving the gospel. And that's, to me, what this is really talking about.
Yeah, it's not talking about, like you said, selling everything you have and moving into a commune, because then, of course, there's no real income.
Right.
And in fact, those do not work. What happens, what is shown to be the case, is that those who do all that and move in together as a commune, you've got 3 or 4 in the whole thing that work. And you got the other ones who basically are just lazy and loafers.
Oh, we call that socialism.
Yeah, exactly. And then the 3 or 4 or 5 or how many, it depends on how big the commune is. The ones that are working get tired of providing all of the work and all the finances for these that are just lazy and don't want to do anything. And that's not what Paul is talking. That's not what the book of Acts is talking about.
Right.
That's not what Luke was talking about in the book of Acts. That's not what Paul is talking about. Paul is talking about us sharing our needs and doing it within our life according to how God would lead our lives. So he's not talking about just becoming a commune, because once all that happens, let's say the commune. I'm going to use the commune example again. Once that happens, pretty much you've stopped sharing the gospel for the most part. You've gone within yourself.
Yeah, you're just preaching to the choir at that point.
Right. At that point, you're all just moving in. Like you said, you're going into survival mode for one, and you're just moving within yourself. You're not doing what God would have you to do, and not completing the Great Commission. And so at that point, you're not maintaining good works, because just working within yourself and not giving the gospel, you're not maintaining good works. What you're doing is you're being disobedient, in fact, because God said, Jesus said one of the last things he said was to spread the gospel. Go and spread the gospel.
Well, yeah, and that's like one thing that we do. You and me are working on our own gardens. If I were to take everything that came out of my garden and either dehydrated it, froze it, kept it all for ourselves, I would get more than I need, which I am right now. Just keeping that all for myself, hoarding it, and just putting it all away, how is that? God is blessing us with excess, and we're just hoarding it. How is that anything within the gospel being productive? Yes, keep extra for a time that we know is coming, but I told God when I started this garden, I said, I want excess to give away. So I give it away. Yeah, we give it to friends, we give it to family, we give it to our neighbors. I'll ask my neighbor when I'm talking to him, hey, you like okra, cucumbers, peppers? You like? Yeah, sure. Okay, I run back in my house, I grab my bag. I don't count it out. I just, whatever like that day's harvest was, I just throw it in a bag and give it to him. That's what I told God I wanted to do, and that's what we should be doing.
And that's what God wants us. That's maintaining good works.
And I do it because I enjoy it, not because I'm trying to push it on him as saying, oh, yeah, look what I gave it all away. No, that's what I told God. I want to have excess just to give it away. I don't care how much I give away, so it just keeps multiplying.
Well, and that's what, now the funny thing is, because this is part of good works, what is being sandwiched here between Titus 3:8 and Titus 3:14, what we talked about yesterday, what's being sandwiched between good works is what is part of good works? Avoid foolish disputes, genealogies, contentions, and strivings about the law, for they are unprofitable and useless. Reject a divisive man after the first or second admonition. See, all of that is sandwiched between, he says, do good works, and then he puts all this and says, avoid foolish disputes, and then he says, do good works. That's, and so you've got that. He's telling you in that avoiding all of those foolish things is also maintaining good works.
Yeah, it's almost like when we see the list of sins, he didn't put them in order based off how bad they are or how innocent they were. This is just a list. It's kind of the same thing here. When you're doing these, do them all with the same mentality.
And I also want you to recognize, we didn't talk much about this yesterday, but he put this in here for a reason. It says, reject a divisive man. And of course, that's talking about man or woman. Okay, ladies, I'm sure you know that. Reject a divisive man after the first or second warning. That's what admonition means. You've warned that man, look, don't be divisive. And eventually, and they won't listen to you. Finally, he says, now, you got to remember, Titus is a leader of the church. That might mean putting them out of the church. But he's saying, reject a divisive man. Don't listen to them anymore. They're just trying to divide, and they're just trying to make problems. So don't do that. Or at the very least, whether they're trying or not, well, actually, after the first warning, I think they're trying. They're not listening. And so he says, knowing that such a person is warped and sinning, being self-condemned. And so he's putting that in there for a purpose, and I want to give you that warning as well. And for your maintaining good works, part of that is when someone is divisive and you recognize it, remember, bad company will corrupt good character. So if you continue to stay around a divisive man, he will make you divisive as well. Well, that's all the time that we have. Thanks for joining with our program as we look into the book of Titus. Of course, we are finished with Titus this week. We will start with another book next week. Don't really know which book it will be, but it will be about the last days because we are in the last days. Jesus is coming soon. Until next time, I pray you receive His gospel power today.
He died for you, He died for me. From our sin, He set us free. He loved us so, His life He gave. So if we ask, we can be saved. He's calling you, He's calling you. Jesus Christ is calling you. If He's touched your heart and soul, let Jesus make you whole. Come kneel with me and we will pray that all your sin be washed away. Don't be afraid, don't be ashamed. Just come and praise His holy name. He's calling you, He's calling you. Jesus Christ is calling you. If He's touched your heart, let Jesus make